You know, food cravings are such a natural, normal part of being a human being, and even as a dietitian, I struggle with cravings too. But over time, I've learned from my own personal experience and from working with clients how to deal with cravings in a healthy and effective way. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So by the end of this video, you're gonna be equipped with the tools to understand your cravings a little bit better and also deal with them in a healthy way. So without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, let's try to figure out what is causing this specific craving. Is it coming from a habit that's been built, an association that's been built? So say, for example, you always crave or eat Oreos when you sit on a specific couch. Is it perhaps that you built that association over time and therefore whenever you sit on that couch, you want to eat Oreos? Or you have a habit of eating something sweet after dinner every single night, and therefore every time you finish your dinner, you crave something sweet. If that's the case, then we need to break that association and practice doing something else besides eating when you're in that specific location or situation. Or is the craving stemming from something else? Are you actually physically hungry? Or are you experiencing something called head hunger or emotional hunger? Here are some signs to help you be able to tell the difference here. If you're actually hungry physically, you might have some of these signs, such as a gnawing in your stomach or your esophagus, or you might be feeling really tired, lack of energy. You might have a headache or lightheadedness if you're very, very hungry, if maybe you haven't eaten for a really long period of time. You may be also thinking a lot about food. And these are all normal physiological responses. It's your body trying to tell you something's going on and it needs food. Head hunger, on the other hand, is not really related to how your stomach or esophagus feels. It might more so be associated with some type of emotion. For example, stress or boredom. It also might be associated with some type of thought like, oh, it's my cheat day, so I'm gonna have this cake or dessert. You might find that you're just eating something mindlessly because it's there. It also could be that you're just thinking a lot about this food, but it's not associated with any of these stomach feelings of hunger. Well, the other day I was eating Blaze Pizza in Austin, Texas. Oh my gosh, the best pizza ever. It's so good. I ate the whole thing and I still felt like I wanted more food. Even though I knew, and I think subconsciously I didn't want to admit it, but my stomach was pretty full. I was maybe a 7 on the hunger scale. I was feeling satisfied. I didn't feel overly stuffed, but I also didn't feel like hungry anymore. I still just wanted more food, probably because it just tasted so good and I just wanted to eat more. And that was a sign of head hunger because I knew that my stomach was full. And in this next section, I'm gonna tell you how I specifically dealt with this pizza example. But everyone is different. Not everyone actually even feels these physical sensations of hunger that I'm talking about. You may be like, what? I don't understand what that is. Sometimes it could be the case that we are so used to not paying attention to our hunger because we're so distracted and we're busy and we're doing other things. So we never really know what that sensation of hunger feels like in our stomach. And if that's you, then it might be really important to start to try to build that skill. Some ways that you can do this is practicing meditation, because meditation really helps you to focus really deeply on your breathing or different sensations in your body, and to also practice asking yourself where you are on the hunger scale. Throughout the day, just picking a time that you have a minute and just checking in with yourself and saying, what do I feel right now? Where do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of hunger? This might seem super foreign and super weird when you first start doing it, but it's really a skill. And the more that you practice it, the more that you're gonna get better at doing it. The better you're gonna be able to be at understanding what your body is telling you. This actually reminds me of a video I just saw by Jeff Nippard, his newest video on RPE. And he was explaining this pretty much very similar concept with RPE. The more you practice it, the more you are going to be able to understand it and judge it better. Anyways, that was a side tangent. Good video though, check it out. Another question to ask yourself is, when was the last time you ate? And was it a good filling mix of fiber, protein, and healthy fats? If we're going many hours in the day without eating, your body is going to respond by giving you signs like stomach growling or making you think a lot about food, so that you can give your body that fuel that it needs. It could simply mean that it's time to eat, or that you're not eating enough, or maybe your last meal was a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, and that's causing you to kind of drop in energy and your blood sugar goes down, and then you just feel inevitably hungry. Or it could even mean that you didn't eat enough yesterday and your body's trying to compensate and catch up on those calories by making you more hungry today. If it's coming from actual physical hunger, it will eventually catch up to you either that day or the next day. Instead of trying to ignore it or suppress it, honor it with a balanced meal. If you're not actually physically hungry and you just feel like you want to eat something, it may be a sign of head hunger. So in this case, then how do you deal with this head hunger? Let's go back to my pizza example from earlier and I'll explain how I dealt with that. I realized, first of all, that I was full. Like, I did feel food in my stomach. It was very filling. It had a good balance of fiber, protein, and healthy fats. And then I realized I just want to eat more because it tastes so good. And that was the reason. Maybe because I was in the moment and I was just thinking more about this food and I just wanted to eat more of it. I realized, first of all, if I eat any more, I'm probably not going to feel really great. So I decided in that moment to accept it. And there's actually been some research that shows that doing this does help with cravings. So first, what I did was I just sat with it. I realized, okay, I am having this craving. Even though I'm full, I still am having a craving for more pizza, and I actually said it out loud. I'm craving more pizza even though I'm full. And I know this might seem kind of silly, but that in combination with realizing I'm not gonna feel great if I keep eating, really got me to the point where I was starting to accept my craving and starting to accept that I don't need or want to eat more. And then I also took some time. So when you have a craving, it can be very easy to just like eat the food, right? Like I could have just, I'm just gonna order more pizza and just go and do it. But instead of letting our thoughts control our actions so quickly, it could be really helpful. It was really helpful to me to relax and just sit with it for a little bit and be like, okay, like if I really want this pizza, I can still have it in the next 15 minutes. Like I'm not gonna be starving, right? I just ate a good amount of food. After a couple minutes, maybe 30 minutes had gone by and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to actually have more pizza. I also said to myself that I can eat pizza tomorrow if I wanted to. It doesn't have to be right now. Really process it, say it out loud to someone. Get curious about your mind and your body. What's going on in your mind? What are some thoughts that are happening? What's going on in your body? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel your heart rate spiking because you're thinking about this food or having this craving? I know it can feel super intense when you're in that moment and you're in that craving. It can feel so intense. And if that's happening for you, take some deep breaths, at least 3 really deep breaths, focusing on your breath. And then try asking yourself those questions. Like, how are you gonna feel after you eat more food? What is going on in your mind? Also, it might be helpful to pinpoint any specific emotions. I use this wheel of emotions a lot because it can really help you identify what specific emotion you're feeling, so then you can then deal with that emotion, perhaps in a non-food way. So say that you identified that you are stressed out. Ask yourself, what in this moment can help me feel less stressed? Because oftentimes, if we go to food for comfort or to relieve our stress or anxiety, we might just scarf down that food and then it makes us feel more stressed out for eating that food. So instead, try to identify the emotion and deal with it in a non-food way. Do things that you know that are gonna relieve your stress, such as go for a walk, talk to a friend, journal. Maybe you have a list of coping strategies for these moments that you can rely on to help you in these specific moments. If none of that works for you and you're still thinking about this food, a short-term solution would be to distract yourself by maybe drinking some tea or chewing some gum or going for a walk again. Sometimes distracting yourself is the healthiest thing to do. However, here's an exception to the rule of distracting yourself if you're having a craving. This may sound kind of radical, but sometimes you just gotta eat the food. Instead of scarfing it down, I'm gonna give you some techniques really briefly. This actually might be a whole nother video, but I'm gonna give you some techniques to help you go about this in maybe a healthier way. Really sitting with that food, maybe smelling it, and being so in the present moment where you're not distracted by anything. Your phone is off, TV's off, you're not talking to anyone. You are just so focused on this food, and you take a small bite, you might be really focused on what are the textures that you're feeling in your mouth. What are the flavors that you're experiencing from this food? Is it crunchy? Is it soft? Is it a combination of textures? Does it taste chocolatey? Does it taste savory? Is it sweet? Is it salty? You're actually really intentional with eating your food and you're doing it in this mindful way instead of scarfing it down. It can actually really help bring down your stress or whatever emotion you might be feeling. Almost like a form of meditation. And this whole strategy might actually be a whole nother video in itself, mindful eating video maybe, so let me know if that's something that interests you in the comments below. One thing I really want to mention is that sometimes, but not always, but sometimes, cravings can arise from using up your willpower reserves. So sometimes a craving can be caused if in your mind you're working really, really hard to resist a certain food. If all you're thinking about throughout the day is, okay, I have to stick to this diet and I cannot eat this food no matter what, inevitably you're going to have a craving for that food and you're probably going to eat it. Because the thing is, your willpower is a reserve that wears out over time, over the day. If you're constantly telling yourself that you can't have something even though you want it, it's inevitable that you're going to give in. For example, I ask my clients to do this all the time. I want you to resist, use all your willpower and resist your thoughts from going to a white polar bear. Whatever you do, do not think of a white polar bear for, let's say, the next 15 seconds. And if you do, clap your hands. Ready? Go. How did you do? How many times did you clap your hands? The same thing can happen with food. If we are using all of our willpower to resist food, eventually it's gonna wear out. We're gonna think about that food constantly and we're gonna give into the craving. We can do a lot mentally to help us deal with things and mentally tell yourself that you can eat whatever food you want. It's not that you're actually gonna go and like eat all of this food, but telling yourself that can really have a huge psychological impact on you. If you tell yourself that, you know what, I can have pizza if I want to. Oftentimes, that just really helps bring our anxiety down. But anyways, that might be another video too. Another tip is to be cautious of how much sugar you're eating. If you are consuming a lot of juices or sodas or simple carbs like white bread, white pasta, and white rice, and if most of your meal or snack looks like that, it's almost inevitable that you're gonna be hungry more often, because what happens is your blood sugar will spike from it, you'll crash down, and then you just feel hungry again within the next hour. So be mindful and try to make your meals more balanced. Try to have a balanced source of protein, fiber, and healthy fats in your meal so that you're not going down that spiral. If you try to eat perfectly 100% of the time, I can almost guarantee that you're gonna have a craving and probably give into it. Even me as a dietitian, I don't eat perfectly 100% of the time. And I don't wanna try to, because there's no one meal or one food that's gonna completely ruin my health. There's room to have a cookie or cake or my favorite foods. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We discussed a lot in this video. A couple of take-home messages. For one, evaluate where your craving is coming from. If it's physical, eat something balanced to help keep you full. Include fiber, protein, and healthy fats. If it's head hunger, you can either sit with it mindfully, say it out loud, distract yourself, or if the head hunger is coming from a specific emotion like stress, try to deal with that emotion in a non-food way. Or give in to that food using mindful eating strategies that can help prevent overeating or overindulging on that food or scarfing it down and then feeling guilty. Another thing is to stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day so that you're not confusing hunger for thirst, which can happen sometimes. What was the most helpful thing you learned in this video? What is one thing that you took away that you actually want to start implementing right now that's super doable for you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. And also don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. I'll see you guys next week in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.